What the fuck are you doing here, Heaton?
You know,
literally.
I was in Oklahoma for Christmas, and I thought I'll just drive down south to Austin to ring in the new year. See my good friends down here in Texas. How time has aged you both.
You think you just come back sniffing around, huh? You left us high and dry. Now you're just...
I'm pretty good at maintaining enclaves in other locations. Like I've mentioned that I go to Edinburgh a lot, right?
It's come up.
Yeah. So Austin is now a permanent Heaton settlement that I have colonized. And I come back to check on the colony.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice surprise.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to have the family all under one roof.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
For the
is.
holidays.
It is. Because we are working on an actual holiday today.
It is New Year's Day.
Yeah.
It is.
You know, in Japan, it's a very big holiday. It's
Why?
like it's more of like a family thing. Like there's a lot more stuff shut down in Japan
Oh.
over New Year's Day.
You
It's
know-
like, it's like New Year's Day, like the first, second, and third is a big deal.
You know, we used to do New Year's in like March or April in like 1200.
Really?
It's dumb.
I think it makes more sense. I would rather do it like at the turn of spring than the dead of winter. And I think it's kind of weird doing it 2 weeks after Christmas. Like I would space it out.
I do wish we would normalize keeping all of the holiday stuff around until the end of winter. Because it's just so sad. Like I saw your sad Christmas tree sitting outside in the front, like ready to go to the trash. And I was like, why are we taking down all the lights when it's still dark as hell? Like, let's keep the Christmas cheer.
I've heard that is a thing that like normalize keeping the lights up until like end of January.
I think I'm
least.
fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't particularly bug me. Yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause
I
it's
love
pretty.
all the lights.
It's
Yeah.
nice. I guess
It's
what would
the
be
nicest
the only
thing about winter.
Christmas lights?
Yeah, they're gorgeous. And Hanukkah lights, like in my dad's neighborhood, everyone had lights, no matter what their religion. It was amazing. And they're all coming down.
Yeah.
Why? Let's keep it.
I haven't seen it. I guess like I've seen Hanukkah lights. I mean,
So like blue lights occasionally or a menorah in the window?
menorah in the window I've certainly seen. I've seen menorahs in the yard.
Blue lights are a thing, at least in Southern California, for the Jewish family.
My dad gets really excited to put out the leg lamp every year from A Christmas Story.
Yeah.
That is
Did
like,
you take
Oh
him
my
to the
God.
big
By
leg?
the way,
What? That was your whole plan.
Yeah, I know. Listeners, I was going to go to Chickasha, which is about an hour south of where my parents live, because there's a 100-foot tall leg lamp, and we just didn't have time, among other things. Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
boo.
it's so I got to see the family. That was nice. Maybe
But the
maybe next
leg
year.
is better than family.
Yeah, I know.
by the way, we're going to have one email about this, but it represents many emails. There's a lot of people who just think that A Christmas Story sucks shit.
Well, they're
Hmm.
wrong.
They just think it's like overrated trash.
You know what
Okay.
sucks shit is A Christmas Story 2. I was furious when I turned on A Christmas Story and they had a sequel, which is terrible.
That popped up on Netflix, and I was like, oh, this must have just come out. And then I was like, oh, no, it came out 2 years ago. This is a very bad sign that I've not heard of this in the intervening 2 years.
It's really bad. Like they still have the voice of Ralphie and he's still immature, even though he's a dad. And it's just, we only made it about half hour. I was like, this needs to
the
stop.
same cast or new cast?
It looks like that kid all grown up.
Oh
I saw
yeah,
the
like
picture.
it was Peter Billingsley who played little Ralphie, but like the mom was a different person and she sucked. Like I loved the mom in the original and this was a different person. And
I'm pretty sure
I don't know where
the mom
Randy
and dad
was.
are probably dead.
I think the dad died. I don't
dad
know
did
about the
die,
mom.
yeah.
But if I saw this script, I'd be like, nope. I was a part of a classic. I am not ruining it. So good for
They
everyone who
only
said
had,
no.
25 years to write the sequel? I mean, maybe they just needed another 10 years to do it.
They just should have left good enough alone. This
I
didn't
think-
need
yeah,
to be
but they
sequel.
got that check.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the originals. One of my favorites.
People hate it, for the record.
They're incorrect.
They just think it is hot trash. Terrible. P.U. Stinko Malenko.
All right. Don't watch it. This is fine.
Yeah. Well, no, people who did watch it. Yeah. Just going to keep on this.
You like Love Actually? Because that can be a Valentine's Day or a Christmas show.
I do like that movie. I think it's problematic in different ways, but I love it.
How's
All
it
right,
problematic?
Top 3 problematic parts of Love Actually.
Oh, I wasn't prepared for this. I didn't watch it in the last 2 years.
Okay.
I
What's
just-
the top 1 problematic part of Love Actually?
Okay, so this guy goes to some other country. Was it Spain? Was it the girl that didn't speak
Portugal,
English?
I think. Portugal?
Yeah, Portugal. Like they don't speak English, and she doesn't speak English. He doesn't speak Portuguese, and then he goes and like asks the family for her hand in marriage, even though they don't fucking know each other. And everyone's thrilled about this. And it's just, it didn't make any sense to me. I was like, why is she this like concubine?
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't this father want them to at least be able to communicate? And like, it's cute that he learned 4 words to prepare to ask
She
for
likes
her
him
hand in
too.
marriage.
She's not an unwilling participant in
They
this.
did not know each other at all. So I don't know. There's just certain things about
Jen,
it.
the love transcended
Love at
language
first sight, yeah.
because blah 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 romance, blah 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 romance. So they're able to even I with my cold heart and rational brain found that cute.
Yeah. There's also Hugh Grant's love interest, who's like, she was the fat girl. She was not fat at all. She was beautiful. And I didn't like that storyline. There's just things about it that are problematic, but I like it.
This Hollywood fat, right? It's like,
Yeah.
When I was in
If she's fat, I'm an elephant.
early college, some of the people in my hall watched a show called like I think it was the OC or something.
Yes.
Oh, I loved that one too.
And I watched 2 episodes of it, and it was so confusing to me because the plot lines had to involve an unpopular girl and a popular girl. So they would take a smoking hot supermodel who was a brunette and a smoking hot supermodel who was a blonde. And the brunette would be like, I'll never be as pretty as her. And I'm watching this go like, so it's just blonde. Is that it? Because like they're all gorgeous, but they had to like differentiate somehow. I got a funny engagement story, by the way. I'm stealing this from my friend Turner, comedian friend of mine. Turner was in China for 7 years and fell in love with a young lady there, spoke Mandarin, I should add. And being a somewhat traditional guy from Sacramento, before he posed the question to his wife, he wanted to get the blessing from her father. That is not a part of Chinese culture at all. That is not a thing in China. So when he went and like went over to his future father-in-law's house and like said, you know, I really love your daughter and I can't think of life without her. And I would like your blessing to ask her to marry me. He went, and then he picked up the phone and went, hey, Turner's over here. He wants to marry you. Do you want to?
Oh no.
Because he thought Turner was just a coward who was afraid to directly engage the daughter. So like
God.
as a middle school student had gone to the dad to be like,
Oh
can
my
you ask
God.
your daughter if she likes me?
The
like,
fuck
was
is going wrong
so
in China?
disappointed in this horrible white guy that he didn't even have the balls to ask his own wife.
Yeah.
Very
That's
funny.
Amazing. My husband never asked my dad because instead we got drunk at Dave & Buster's and he asked me to marry him completely unplanned.
Really?
So that's another way to go about it.
Where in the drinking schedule were you? How drunk do you have to get to spontaneously propose at Dave & Buster's? Is it like drink 3, drink 5?
We had gotten kicked out of the Waikiki Dave & Buster's. It was like next level.
Okay.
We had been there for 7 hours, I believe, because it's half off game night. So, so yeah, it was very romantic. Once
Yeah.
we remembered that it happened, it was very romantic. Yeah. Yesterday was our 14-year anniversary. by the way.
Congratulations.
Wait, this happened or you got married on New Year's?
Yeah, we got married on New Year's Eve.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't remember when we got engaged, actually. I don't have that date.
Great time to get married, by the way.
The world threw us a party and does it every year.
It's a great time to get married because number 1, you're never going to forget the anniversary. Number 2, you are going to have an event that everyone's going to remember no matter what, right? Yeah, great time.
You know,
Well,
plus-
and for our particular date, we got married in 2010. So all we have to do to remember how long we've been married is look at the last digit. So that's why like it was 2024. We're like, okay, 14 years.
Nice.
Mm.
Plus, like I think pretty much every New Year's that I've been to, I've had great New Year's. I've spent a couple New Year's with Justin and everybody. But it's almost always fairly fungible. It's not like people have like, oh no, we're doing this amazing thing 6 months from now. We can't possibly change it. It's usually a group of friends are going to go do a thing. So if you were to throw a wedding, they'd be like, oh yeah, we'll do that thing. Whereas like Christmas would be difficult because you've ossified plans with your family most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was great. We got married in the middle of the ocean. So that made it tough for people to attend. But
Like-
we still got like 60 people.
Like, wait, were you on a boat or were you just in Hawaii?
We lived in Hawaii.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, we
Yeah, but
got
that's not
married
like
and then
the middle
moved
of
off.
the ocean and the way that if you were like on a cruise ship or something.
But if you're trying
would
to fly
like it
there
if
in the
a
holidays.
sea captain is the one that officiated your wedding. Is that what happened?
No, it was my brother-in-law.
How much do they play that one song about a Hawaiian Christmas?
Mele
Hawaii?
Kalikimaka.
Yeah.
Oh my God, constantly.
Constantly?
And
It's
we
a
were
banger.
there. We were there after Thanksgiving and it had begun. I heard it at least 50 times.
Yeah.
I love it though. I
It's a
never
great
really got
song,
sick
yeah.
of it.
Was it Mecca Kalikimaka?
Mele Kalikimaka
is the
thing to say. Yeah. Is that Bing Crosby? It sounds
I
like Bing
believe so,
Crosby.
yeah.
I love Bing Crosby.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's always, and this is tales of a being raised by a gambling addict that was always going to be watching the Hawaii bowl game because somebody was chasing. But I just remember hearing it. Like it was like an annual tradition is that when, all right, I'm going to explain things for people who are not degenerate gamblers. When you lose all the bets that you made early in the day, especially for college football, you eventually just wait until the last game so you can try to win it all back. And the last game invariably, or oftentimes, is Hawaii. And so then there's a Hawaii bowl game. So when there's even less action to be had, they had a Hawaii bowl game and it was Mecca Kaliki Maka.
The other song that I never got sick of in Hawaii and everybody loves is Aloha Friday. You ever heard that one? They play it on the radio station at around like 4 or 5 o'clock every Friday. And it's like, it's Aloha Friday, no work till Monday. Ba-doo, 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 ba-doo. And like everyone gets excited to hear it. Everybody does the ba-doo, ba-doos. It's such a great song. So I think the whole world should adopt that one.
No, I think the Jones Act kept that one on island.
Thanks, Jones Act.
Yeah, Hawaii's a fun little place.
From Austin, Texas, I'm Justin Robert Young.
I'm Andrew Heaton.
I'm Jen Briney.
And we're not wrong on this edition of the program. We will be looking back to the year that was 2024. We will have Jen and Andrew select a date, and we will at random go back to one of the topics that we have previously discussed and see if anything has changed. We will begin with you, Mr. Heaton. Since you were an unexpected guest, you will get the honors. Where are we going on the calendar?
March 14th.
March?
Why March 14th?
I don't know.
14th.
It popped into my mind.
Okay.
But I don't know. It's probably somebody's birthday in my life that I can't remember.
Okay, we had an episode on March 13th. Oh, and this one is actually really good. We discussed the TikTok ban, and we talked about the Boeing
These are so relevant.
production line. The Boeing 737 MAX production line had numerous problems, as was revealed.
Did you guys see the crash video from South Korea?
No.
That one's gnarly.
Wait, did a Boeing crash?
Yeah, 179 people died.
When was this?
Like a couple days ago.
Oh,
right before
totally
I flew
missed
back.
that. Wow.
Yeah, the landing gear, it was a Boeing 737-800, which I flew to and from California on. It's one of the most popular planes. The landing gear didn't work, but then it skidded off the runway. It's like they did the belly landing, and then there was, for some reason, a concrete wall.
Oh, Jesus.
And the plane hit it and just, and the only people that survived were the two people in the very back of the plane. But yeah, it was fucked up. And then there was another Boeing incident. None of these were as fatal. There
South
were
Korea.
4.
There's fucked up shit happening in South Korea.
I don't know why they would. That's one of the
Planes
biggest
are crashing.
questions. Is why they
Squid
would
Games.
the construction of that wall and why it was there is becoming like one of the biggest storylines. It didn't make any sense.
Or why would you try to land with that wall there?
Well, it was next to the runway. It wasn't like they landed somewhere weird. The wall was
but
there.
like, you presumably know that you have landing.
Maybe the planes
gear
keep trying to
failure
escape.
before you even start descending.
I mean, the runway is the runway. I don't think they really have a choice.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it would really depend on how much fuel they had and whether or not
But
they
for
could get
some
to somewhere
reason,
else.
there was someone on the ground filming the whole thing. So you can watch the video of it happening. It's gnarly.
Probably because they knew that there was going to be some emergency maneuver.
Yeah, maybe.
They just didn't know that it was going to be faces of death.
But there were 4 airplane incidents over the course of like 48 hours.
Good Lord.
I know.
In South Korea specifically or with Boeing?
No, just so 2 were Boeing and then 2, one was like a Canadian smaller plane and one was some company. I don't know.
Well, there was the other
The
one
2
that
were
was
Boeing.
shot down by Russia. in
Oh yeah, I went when I was in Oklahoma. I went to the gym twice with my brother. Probably tell I probably seem more virile. And we went to the gym twice. And like I'm doing this thing called spotting for Adam, and he goes, "Did you see we're about to go into World War III?" And I was like, "What's this now?" And he's like, "Didn't the Russians shoot one of our planes down?" And I was like, "I think we'd all be dead right now if that had happened." And then I pulled it. I was like, "Oh, Azerbaijan!" Like it was like an Azerbaijan plane got. And Putin went, "We didn't do it, but we're very sorry, and maybe we'll send you some money," or something like that.
Yeah.
As close as Putin comes to an apology.
Expressed condolences, but did not apologize. No, he apologized, but he didn't take credit for shooting it down. Like he apologized that they were dead, but was like, it wasn't. He didn't say it was us, but he all but said it was them.
So is it basically an accident? Is that, I mean, why would you apologize for a thing if you're doing it on purpose?
I have no idea.
I guess.
It's Christmas. He's got a lot of Azerbaijani friends. You don't want to ruffle that too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. But then there's the TikTok ban, which now, I mean, this is actually something that is like kind of very, very relevant because it is supposed to go into effect 2 days before Donald Trump is inaugurated as president. Right now, it is sitting on the Supreme Court docket, and they are deciding whether or not TikTok's legal challenges against the law, which is signed, are valid. Trump has made his request to the Supreme Court that they stay their ruling because he wants to basically have dominion over trying to broker some kind of, future for the platform, which I assume would probably be some kind of sale or something like that. But yeah.
Well, that's the episode of Congressional Dish that I put in the last We're Not Wrong.
Okay.
So hopefully people should be aware that like when this happens, if this happens, it actually isn't affecting TikTok directly.
No.
What it would be is that there would be massive, incredibly large fines going against Apple and Google and Oracle, like the hosting companies, those that have the app stores, like those are actually the companies that would get punished.
If they continue to list it. Yes.
Yes. So it's like those are the ones. It's interesting, like the power players here, because all the focus is on TikTok, but it's actually these other companies that would have to pay the fines. And they're like existentially large fines. They're unbelievable.
What is the pending Supreme Court case? Is
basically,
I'm assuming
TikTok,
it's free speech.
Yeah, it's TikTok saying that this is a free speech issue and they should not be allowed to, Congress should not have been allowed to pass that law and Biden should not have been allowed to sign it.
But the way that it's structured, it's not just TikTok. So this is one thing that I find kind of fascinating is that it's a power that was essentially granted to the president from Congress. And it's a huge one to not just ban apps that are foreign controlled, but also websites or VR. Like it's very expansive. And so to focus on this as a free speech issue when it would apply to things like websites and other applications, like I don't know if that was the right way to go about it because it's not just social media platforms that are being targeted. Like really anything could be targeted if it's foreign owned. So it's a really weird way that it was structured. And I don't feel like Americans were really explained this very well. But it was a clever crafting of the law by the people that wanted to do this. But I think it could really come back and bite them in the ass because Trump's the one who's going to have this power going forward. And like, so this is what I said last night to our friends, because I'm watching Trump and Elon Musk. Like they're friends now, but I'm really like, it's a matter of time before they start to hate each other. And so when I think about it, they both own Twitter-like social media companies with Elon buying what used to be Twitter.
Yeah.
And then Trump has Truth Social. And so I could see a scenario where it depends on what country you're from. And Elon's from South Africa. But if Trump, who doesn't really care what the law was, were to say that there's a problem with South Africa and get that added to the list, like, is there a scenario in which you could get Twitter banned?
Is Musk a South African citizen or is he an American citizen?
I think he's dual, but he's from South Africa.
Okay.
But I don't actually know. But it's like, when I look at this, when I look at the power that was granted to him as a social media company owner, and he's going to have this power on January 20th, to look at the ownership, and if there's foreign ownership of certain, if you're from certain countries, although the list is fluid, that's not determined by Congress. So there are ways to get different countries added. But there's ways for Trump to just say like, oh, I don't like this owner. Let's see what power I was just given. Like, I think this is something that Congress is going to come to regret.
This is a perennial problem with a lot of laws that are particularly made along partisan grounds. I
will say this was bipartisan.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Let me rephrase this. This is a big problem with laws that are contingent upon liking the person in charge. We're going to create a power that we're going to give this person in charge, but the power still exists when that person leaves. So if you want that, if you're creating this tool to be wielded by an indefinite individual moving forward, do you want the tool to exist? So like with this one, if it's wide latitude to ban social media, if there's any foreign malfeasance there, like you should be asking yourself, if there's a president that's unscrupulous or I don't like or owns a social media company, would they be using this in a negative way? And it looks like that isn't entirely possible.
Although, to be fair, Trump has been on the I don't want TikTok banned side. Now you can reasonably make the inference that one of his major donors is a huge owner of TikTok. But he has been on the side of I don't want to ban TikTok.
But that's where we're getting into like, I feel like the conversation right now is a little too TikTok specific because like I said, this is a broad power. And so, yeah, he might have reasons to be down with TikTok and Twitter now, but what happens in the future if those donors...
Yeah, I mean, he was the one that brokered the deal that TikTok now says is the best that they can do in terms of keeping American data in America, which was Project Texas, which allowed Oracle to keep all of the American data on Oracle servers in America. What Oracle does not have access to is control of the algorithm that serves the videos. And that's the one thing that I find is fascinating about revisiting a lot of the TikTok conversations, even from March, is that TikTok's algorithm is unique because it could really only have been made in China.
Why?
Because it's good because it categorizes so many different things in a video, right? And in America, especially in Silicon Valley, if you have the idea of like, oh, okay, let's do a recommendation engine where you just constantly get new videos, we would have to probably categorize every single user submitted video by 15 data points. It's like, okay, well, geez, machine learning isn't quite to that level of a sophistication to really know exactly what these things are. To do that, you'd probably need like 10,000 people that you just put in a basement and they would just be forced to watch these videos over and over and over again and just categorize them on these 15 different things. So we can't do that. We'll have to just wait until the technology gets better because that would be crazy. We wouldn't be able to scale. We wouldn't even pay people enough to sit there and categorize that. But China is like, wait, all we got to do is put 10,000 people in a basement? Like, let's go. And so they built this really, really, really good algorithm. What's changed even from March to now is that we kind of caught up technologically. And now you've got AI systems where you could probably just show an AI, a large language model, a bunch of these videos. And now you could inky poo that John Henry, that human solution now. So it's like, the TikTok algorithm today, as we talk on January 1st, 2025, I think is materially less valuable than it was in March. I think you could replicate it on a level that is, pretty comparable. And you've actually seen YouTube's gotten better at their recommendation algorithm. Instagram's gotten better at their recommendation algorithm. X has gotten better at that. Like, I don't know if anybody's watched video on mobile on X, but it'll just automatically recommend another video. And often it's pretty good, at least from what I've seen. But that was always the sticking point with TikTok, is that China would not allow the sale of the algorithm. And now, you could, if you were an American company, buy TikTok and say, that's fine. Keep your algorithm, figure it out. And that was not the case, I think, even in March when all this stuff came down.
I mean, that would be what saves TikTok. But then this law remains on the books. And I think that's the bigger problem.
Well, that is something where it's like, okay, so now you've put this loaded gun in the Oval Office that can shoot foreign-owned media, which is something that, like, even people that I've seen very vociferously talk about why TikTok should be regulated, if not banned, is because of foreign ownership. But also it's like, should that just be a gun that sits in the president's office, or should it just be something that is more of a broad law? There
was a lot of disturbing rhetoric like that I saw right at the end of the election. I think it was on the View, where one of the people was going off on a screed about how if we just like the problem was misinformation. The reason Trump won was misinformation. Like if we could just get somebody to ban misinformation so that people would make informed decisions on truth, we wouldn't have this problem. And I'm like, I never will trust a bureaucratic agency to go, we will only ban, and we are all angels. We will never, ever, 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 even subconsciously, move the needle in such a way as to promote our worldview and suppress things we don't like.
I mean, the misinformation arguments scare the living shit out of me.
Yeah. Remember when they were trying to make Nina Jankowicz like the ambassador of truth?
Oh my God.
Wait, what is this?
This was a minute ago. This was Biden administration for sure, but they wanted to have basically a new office. And it was going to be held or headed by Nina Jankowicz, who I've seen her testify to Congress. Like she is one of these like, misinformation is so dangerous. Like I think in her hands, she'd be banning all kinds of speech.
Yeah,
like, she was one of the worst people I could think of.
There was a blonde lady in the Trump administration whose name escapes me.
You're gonna have to go
more specific. Monica Crowley. I think it was Monica Crowley, who's married. Her husband's like a very anti-Trump guy. If I think it's Monica Crowley.
No. Are you talking about the campaign manager?
Maybe her husband
was a Lincoln Project.
Yes. What's her name?
It was Steve Bannon, and she did a podcast that I listened to with David Plouffe before he went.
And her brother-in-law was Alan Combs. Like it's going to come into my mind in a minute. In any event, I was reading some article, and it was like CNN or something, and it was doing like analyzing, truthiness, the misinformation versus factual stuff. And this is back in like 2020 or 2019. So she was like, Antifa is un-American. And it was like, false. This statement is false because Antifa is opposing fascism, which is pro-American to oppose fascism. It's an inaccurate statement. And I'm like, this is all opinion. Like this is all supposition. Whatever you say is anti-American, that is 100% supposition. It's not
Kellyanne Conway, by the way.
Kellyanne Conway, that's it. It's not molecules that but the immediate reaction of I disagree with that opinion, so I'm going to label that as factually inaccurate was like emblematic of the entire enterprise.
Yeah, Mr. Free Speech, Elon Musk, like banning people that are saying things he doesn't like. It's been a fun December in terms of free speech.
Well, and I think with like, I'd be curious to read the court case that has been brought about by the TikTok people.
Yeah.
Like on the one hand, I think that
they were ruled against by the appellate court, and that's why it's in the Supreme Court.
There's like so many cases now are all prosecuted on free speech grounds, even when they don't easily categorize that way. Like, the gay cake maker case from Boulder or Denver, the Gakes case from Denver from like 10 years ago now, where a very religious cake maker was required to make cakes for gay weddings. I would look at that as like an Establishment Clause issue or a freedom of exercise issue. But the religious law is not as ironclad as free speech law is in this country. Free speech law is fortunately very robust. So people increasingly are using that as the venue to try to get rulings that they favor. And I'd be curious to see what the TikTok one is, because I just on kind of basic prima facie grounds, I appreciate that there are going to be insidious characters that are trying to warp the direction of our country culturally or politically by shoveling in propaganda. But I don't think the way to correct that is to remove the mouthpiece of other Americans and go, none of you get to talk, because we'd rather ban the whole thing and minimize the amount of Americans talking, so long as we can knock out the Chinese. Like I would rather, it's kind of like I'd rather have guilty people go free than prosecute an innocent person.
Yeah.
I would rather have the propaganda, but have the ability of Americans to be able to communicate with each other than shut it all down.
I just think, again, I think that people shouldn't be surprised if the Supreme Court lets this law stay because it was very cleverly crafted to get around the free speech argument. It really isn't suppressing speech.
The article that we actually talked about was about how bipartisan they worked behind the scenes. They worked with the intelligence agencies to word the law in a way that they thought was going to survive intense legal scrutiny. And they did it silently. Like the article is about TikTok's lobbyists being caught with their pants down on this. This law just like hits the books one day. Nobody leaked. Nobody talked to any of the Hill reporters to say like, oh, we're working on this. It just hit bipartisan, went through both chambers of Congress, and Biden signed it. And that was like it. And
no hearings. Well, the way that it became law was interesting too, because it did pass on its own. The version that became law was dingleberried onto the war funding. So it was dingleberried onto Ukraine and Taiwan and Israel and then that. And it didn't change really. Like they changed the deadline. So the deadline was supposed to be before the election. They kicked it into January, which was interesting. That's the only thing that changed between the bill and the law. But it's such an impact. Like I said, this is a massive amount of presidential power that's been handed over. They didn't have any hearings about it.
Nope.
Like it was just very.
I mean, they've had plenty of hearings on social media. And I knew that something was coming on social media when you saw what those hearings were like, because everybody of all stripes had something to be very mad about, like whether it was the China side, whether it was you're poisoning our young girls' minds, like whether it was here are these parents in the gallery, their kid committed suicide because he saw a dance that was featured, whatever it was, like everybody was ripping into specifically the CEO of TikTok. Like he was the dude.
He's like, guys, we just wanted to make an app for jailbait to twerk. That's all we were trying to do. we figured we could get some advertisements that way. There's nothing insidious here.
For the pervs? Huh?
Yeah, there's nothing insidious here. This is very straightforward. Come on.
Yeah, the hearing where they had him testify, it was really shameful because they kept saying stuff like, are you a member of the CCP? He's like, I'm from Singapore. And like some of our members of Congress didn't seem to realize there's a difference.
Nothing in the world makes me less sympathetic to Congress than watching hearings where they grill people.
I know.
Because it's like I would, if that ever happens to me, just like immediately know that I'm going to be held in contempt of Congress. I'm not going to, I would get up there and be like, this is fucking kabuki theater. You guys are doing this for sound bites. If there weren't cameras, we would not be having this conversation. This is all political machination. I'm a free man being hauled in front of a bunch of lizard people that are going to poke me around. No, I hate that stuff so much. And it makes people that otherwise I would like to be grilled become sympathetic in my eyes as a result of it.
That being said, TikTok is controlled by the CCP. Like,
if it is or isn't, that was really like there was the one hearing with the TikTok CEO, but in the hearings that I think you're talking about, which there were a ton of them, so many that I stopped watching because they became repetitive. But the conversation was, do we change Section 230, which basically gives immunity to these social media companies saying like, you're just the platform. So we're not going to punish you. Yeah, we're not going to punish you for what people put on your platform because you're not actually saying it. There was a lot of conversation about changing that. And so for this bill to come out the way it is, like this is not a bill that was carefully or publicly crafted. And so there weren't experts that went and sat in front of Congress and the American people and said, these are going to be the effects. This is what you have to watch out for. That never happened. Yeah. And as far as I've seen, it hasn't happened since. There really hasn't been that conversation of like, by the way,
is this good?
This is bigger than TikTok.
Yeah. When we last spoke about this, I forget what the acronym is that we say, like CIFA, some of the CFIUS. Thank you, CFIUS. I think they do a good job. Like I did my master's degree, the thesis was involving CFIUS, and when I went through a number of their cases, I think they actually do very good work. They've not issued a statement on TikTok. Am I right in thinking that, or did they greenlight it?
The last time that we talked about this, they had not issued a thing.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, like I defer to them on this one. In terms of whether the CCP controls it or not. If CFIUS agrees with your statement, then I mean,
nothing that operates like Douyin is the company that operates in China. It was a Chinese social media company before it, expanded abroad. Like anything that operates freely within China is touchable, if not controlled by the CCP.
Yeah, there's nothing that operates freely in China.
But CFIUS was the organization that was working with TikTok to have the data
To do
stored at
Project
Oracle.
Texas.
To get like
Yes.
a barrier put in place,
Yes.
to put in a firewall. Yeah.
And so I also think it's kind of fucked up that it's in this law. It's Oracle that's going to get punished with existentially large fines because they've been working with the government in good faith for years now, trying to set up Project Texas. And because they are the hosting, they are the ones that would get hit by this law. I think it's really
If they
fucked up.
continue doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, unless they cut off TikTok on, I think, January 18th, 19th,
It's soon,
something
yeah.
like it's like before the inauguration.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not TikTok that gets punished for not selling. It's Oracle.
We'll be in DC the night the TikTok dies.
Oh my God. Do you guys believe in signs? Because last night,
Like the M. Night Shyamalan movie?
no, although great movie. I'm talking more about the fact that last night on New Year's Eve,
Mhm.
both the National Monument and the U.S. Capitol Dome were struck by lightning. Like, does that bode well for 2025?
Yeah,
I
it's gonna
don't-
be electrifying.
I don't think I needed any atmospheric phenomenon to symbolically let me know of the efficacy of the United States Congress. I think if it had been a balmy, clear-skied thing, I could have predicted how Congress will operate this next year.
Yeah. But what's the likelihood that there's a severe storm that comes through and strikes those locations by lightning
They're
on
pretty
New
tall.
Year's Eve?
Yeah.
It's like the end of December. Like you would expect it to be a snowstorm.
How
not
often
a-
are they struck by lightning in general? You can't make
I
this.
don't know.
You can't make an assessment of this unless you know the data surrounding
Yeah.
it contextually.
It just has creepy vibes.
Is
to
this
me.
just the kind of shit you see on TikTok?
No, I actually read that one this morning. Yeah.
Speaking of the House, we're not going to do any specific Speaker of the House stuff, but have you been following? How much have you been plugging into the Speaker drama?
I mean, it looks a lot like last year with a different name. Instead of McCarthy, it's looking like Johnson because Tom Massey. So the numbers are, they're so close. To elect a speaker, the Republicans would have to get 218 people to
Yeah.
agree on one. They
Yeah.
have 219 Republicans currently,
Yeah.
available on Friday to do this. And Tom Massey's already said, like, I'm not voting for Johnson.
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself. I'm not doing it. So that is the 218. If there's one defection, they're fucked. And there's this one lady, Victoria Spartz. She is very wishy-washy on Johnson. She's Ukrainian. And so I think there's some bitterness about him not being,
So my
full-throatedly-
pipe dream of them
Yeah.
agreeing on bringing in Justin Amash is still like I could still fantasize about that a little bit longer. It's the same way I
Trump came
fantasize
out-
about the lotto.
Here's the difference between the McCarthy fight and the Johnson potential fight on Friday. Although, by the way, C-SPAN's good camera is back.
Yeah.
Back.
For both the 3rd and the 6th.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
So the difference is that now the Republicans need to stay in line, but it's not just a call from Mar-a-Lago that they would have to avoid if they are, not on the team. They would get called into the principal's office just down the road there.
With
Like,
Trump.
Yeah.
But you look at what
Chungus is in town. Daddy's home.
He is, but at the same time, look at what just happened with government funding. Trump demanded basically that the debt ceiling be eliminated
Yeah.
for at least the next 2 years because the Trump tax cuts are going to destroy the the idea of bringing the debt down. It's just like impossible. And so he wanted it eliminated. And the Republicans said no. So there's already a group of Republicans that are not following daddy's orders.
But also, I have not seen this posited, but we know that Trump is deal man, right? He threw a thing in there at the 11th hour, and then the next day, all the Democrats said absolutely not, absolutely not, absolutely not. Which is funny because they're the ones who always want to eliminate the debt ceiling. You would think if they thought more than 5 steps ahead, they'd be like, "Oh shit, we never get beaten about the head and face about the debt ceiling ever
If
again."
the deal was get rid of the debt ceiling forever, they might have been on board. But for just 2
It
years,
was
just
for
so
2
that
years.
Trump can
Yeah.
get all the tax, that's a little different.
So they threw that in there. They said no. Democrats voted it down. A bunch of Republicans voted it down. The next day, they came back the exact same deal, except the debt ceiling, and they voted it through. So
Yeah.
the Democrats got nothing. Like they had negotiated this big deal before, and then the Republicans revolted on it. And
got
so
a lot of
that-
good stuff taken out, unfortunately.
Yeah,
There was
and
good
so-
stuff dingleberried in that first one.
So that one gets spiked, right? Then there's the deal, the straight ahead CR, but with this debt ceiling thing, then that goes away. And then they vote for the straight CR, which they had negotiated. They had said, absolutely not. We're not going to vote for a straight CR unless you give us all this other shit. So it's like, who's really zooming who here?
The Democrats just wanted to go home for Christmas.
Exactly.
I've seen it so many times.
Exactly.
Yeah. I just think that with the small margin of error that the Republicans have, even when Trump says jump, I don't think all of them will this time. I think it's going to be a tough, because Trump can't run again. So
yeah, Justin, this is one of your hobby horses that all power is future power. As of January 20th, Donald Trump will be a lame duck president.
Trump can essentially the end, as soon as he gets inaugurated, he's got those 100 days. The 100 days matter in terms of like, especially with the tax cuts, like that kind of stuff. Like it's waning. It starts depreciating like driving a new car off the lot the second that you hit your second term, right? But I don't know. I mean, look, it is close. The argument for this being a total shit show is that it is really close and that all you need is one person to say YOLO.
Tom Massey.
Well, you already have
doesn't own Massey.
Somebody other than Massey, right? So Massey already has pushed it to the limit. You need one more person, right?
And I can name a bunch, like Chip Roy, Victoria Spartz. Like there's a group of them.
Yeah, but Chip Roy likes Johnson, right?
Likes Johnson, but he's already kind of gone head to head with Trump. I remember after January 6th, it was Chip Roy that got up there and was yelling at the Republicans, this is unacceptable, stop it right now. And like, he's been pretty vocal a few times. He's a independent thinker, and that's two, Massey and Roy. That's all you need.
If Roy spikes him, yeah, it'll be interesting. But that will be I was like, if you hate Johnson and you want him to be miserable, like vote for him to be speaker.
I know.
Like this is the worst job in Washington. It is terrible. Like you would be condemning him to hell by giving him like the weakest link of what is expected to be from Donald Trump to be a clean assembly line for all of his things to get over the line. If you hate him, make him responsible for it.
Because they have to fund the government again in mid-March.
Yeah.
Like that's not even done from 2024.
Yeah.
It's going to start out a real shit show. So, and that's one of the things, like if you're afraid of the Trump administration, the dysfunction that I've seen in Congress in the 118th, which seems to be carrying over already into the 119th, hasn't even started yet, but the signs are on the wall.
Lightning.
The Capitol dome got struck by lightning.
The lightning's on the wall.
I feel like if you're afraid of what Trump can do, just remember that Congress is incredibly dysfunctional right now. There's going to be a limit.
Although there will be a question of exactly how much Hakeem will be able to hold the Democrats.
Oh,
together.
Please. Nancy's still in charge. We know no one gives a fuck about Hakeem.
She's just texting in from wherever she's convalescing.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, if the worst job in Washington is being Speaker of the House, what's the best job? I think it might be Vice President.
Jan Stance Vance is in a pretty good position because now everybody's just going to be talking about him being the next president. Yeah. And he's not really going to do stuff.
I think the best job in any state is lieutenant governor. Like Oklahoma, where I'm from, the lieutenant governor is basically just the head of like tourism promotion. And all they do is just drive around the state going, isn't it a great state? Like shaking hands and telling anecdotes.
Only in Oklahoma.
Oklahoma should elect me right now as lieutenant governor. I'd do a great job. But like, there's no responsibility. You just wake up and go, is the governor dead? Nope. All right. Guess I'll go give a speech to the Lions Club.
Yeah. It's basically vice president. Every once in a while, you have to act as president of the Senate and take a tough vote, but that's not that often.
Yeah. I mean, the only time that bites you in the ass is if the president has his brain melt through his nose on television. He has to drop out. And then all of a sudden your only voting record is voting for a lot of shit that's unpopular.
You could have one because now they've dropped the federal charges against Trump, right? I can't even keep track of it at this point.
Yeah.
Like the New York one, they've stayed it or they've punted it basically.
They've stayed the
34 counts.
They've stayed the sentencing
punishment part.
Right. Yes. Okay. Right.
But the conviction stands.
Right.
For
okay.
now.
Well, technically he's not, but this is like a thing that like whether or not he is actually convicted if he hasn't been sentenced, like they have decided that he is to be convicted, but it is not official until the sentencing.
But are there any pending?
Georgia State is still pending. They've gotten rid of Fannie.
They got rid of Fannie, right?
Well, but we don't know whether or not they will be if she remains as the Fulton County Attorney General, which she had just won re-election.
Really?
Yeah.
God damn it, Georgia.
Then another county would have to take it up.
But right now it's not dead.
It's
not gone.
alive, but
Yeah.
it's not.
You know how
dead.
Joe Biden's technically president?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, well, there could be some fun scenarios with the vice president in the forthcoming administration where there's all sorts of debate because it's entirely hypothetical on can the president issue a pardon for himself.
Yeah.
That has been up for debate. And one of the various scenarios that can go through is, well, maybe the president can't pardon himself, but what he could do is give the vice president acting presidential powers if he was incapacitated. So if he had a stroke or a colonoscopy. So it could be that Trump goes and has a voluntary colonoscopy where he is anesthetized. The powers of the presidency are temporarily given to the acting president, J.D. Vance, who then pardons him using his acting powers of the president. It's like you could, like Trump's colonoscopy could be a part of jurisprudence in the next 3 years.
You can't federally pardon state crimes.
No, you can't do that. It would have to be for a federal crime.
He is out of the woods on the federal stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Well, for now, I mean, who knows? We got 4 years to play with Trump. I bet you some fun stuff's going to happen.
I don't think Cash Patel is going to.
Yeah, that's true.
Put at the
Yeah,
top
good
of his
point.
list, please.
Good point.
prosecute
Yeah,
the
you're right.
president.
You're right. You know what? Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, he's done. See, Biden is apparently regretting picking Merrick Garland as DOJ head because he didn't prosecute Trump fast enough. And
he also thinks that he would have won if Kamala, like Joe still thinks that he was the guy.
Oh, he does.
Fucking asshole.
Oh, you know it. You know it.
He said it. Like we've been guessing that he said. By the way, you still owe me steak because he dropped out.
I'll get you the steak.
When?
It's in the mail. Steak is in the mail. Also, did you see?
I've given you a baby grace period, but I just saw her. She's 4 months old. Give me my steak. It's time.
Did you see the National Records Archive published photos that had been taken while Joe Biden was vice president of him and Hunter and Hunter's business partners with Chinese officials, including Xi Jinping?
Stop it.
Yeah. They're like, oh, yeah, we just happened to, well, might as well get these out there.
Joe Biden.
Old, never had any interaction with Hunter's businesses. Joe Biden just introducing his son and his business partners to Xi Jinping.
Wow. And you know what's sad? No, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one cares.
No,
keep your
now it's look, I'm all in. Jamie Comer never told a lie. Everything. I
Keep
now
your
believe everything.
eyes peeled for the day before the inauguration because there's going to be some interesting pardons that happen. Like every president.
His brother's getting pardoned.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, book it. The reason why he did the Hunter one early is he didn't want to do Hunter and the brother on the same day. And Hunter was facing technically a sentencing earlier.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See.
Patreon.com/We're Not Wrongs, where you need to go if you want to get a bonus episode of the show. And you, the listener, have also picked dates that we will go back and talk about on our Patreon episode this week. So enjoy that. Jen, it's up to you. Where are we going? Where in the past?
Let's go to my dad's birthday, June 10th.
June 10th. Here we go. June 10th, 2024. We have June 12th. We had an episode.
Good enough.
We had for the 50th time whether or not corporate media is on life support.
Yeah, we could skip that one.
And we had Project 2025.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Do we want to talk about Project 2025?
Probably, because people are still freaking out about it.
Who's freaking out about Project 2025?
I still like Project 2025 is coming in 3 weeks. And yeah, I still hear about it.
Yeah, I reiterate my position. No one in America should be afraid of a think tank. No one should ever be afraid of a think tank.
I have enjoyed some of the conservative memes of like, they just say whatever they want and then they just say like, chapter 5, verse 2 of Project 2025. I'm allowed to take this seat.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand people being afraid of the policies, but I look at Project 2025 and this imaginary Department of Government Efficiency is like the same exact thing. Like it's advisory. Like they're just going to have pieces of paper and then the people who actually have power can take them or leave them. Like that's all it is. Like Elon was given an imaginary position. Project 2025 is an imaginary policy paper. Like they're both nonsense. And yet there's so much noise about both of them.
So on Pod Save America, the four-person brain trust that ran the Kamala Harris campaign.
And these are all Obama guys, right? Like that's why they're famous.
Yeah, Pod Save America's
well,
Obama
Pod Save
guys.
America was,
Yeah.
but it was only one of the Pod Save America guys that did the interview. It was mostly the voices of the people that ran the Harris campaign. And David Plouffe, who was an old Obama guy that joined the campaign after Harris got the nominee, was bragging about how they made Project 2025 as popular as Ebola. And it's like that he was like bragging about like their messaging. We made Project 2025.
Congratulations on defeating Project 2025 instead of Trump.
Yeah. That was my
Honestly.
Good job.
It's like, oh, that's really,
Wow.
really great.
Heritage will be really unpopular at the Washington, D.C. think tank parties this year.
I was like,
Fuckers.
Yeah.
like, great. You irradiated a garbage
a white
boat
paper
that-
from the Heritage Foundation.
That, by the
Good
way,
job.
the person you had to beat could definitely just say, I don't know that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And
it's
then get
not
credit.
mine.
And then get credit from independent voters from saying, yeah, I hate Project 2025, but
You
Trump
disavowed
said
that?
Yeah, Trump said he had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, we had to waste time on this program talking about it because Plouffe did such a good job with distracting from the things that Trump actually did do. It's
Well, that was my biggest thing about it. Is like, all right, look, you're trying to win this election. Aside from the fact that apparently you really, really think that Project 2025 is a sinister name enough that it's a brand. I think they're probably right too. It's like it was a good brand that you could just like conspiratorially look into an MSNBC camera and say Project 2025 and then have lightning strike behind you. But other than that, it's like, what are we talking about here? Like your brand, you already have a scary brand. It's called Trump.
yeah.
Talk about that scary brand. That's what got you elected in 2020. Why are you putting any attention on anything that's not Donald Trump?
Like, tell the American people ever that he faked 11 election certifications. Like, focus on that ever, because that's a thing that actually happened. Where Project 2025, there was just too many degrees of separation
Yeah,
from the man, and it was like future stuff. So it was like, well, this is what he's going to do. Where it's like, well, let's look at the 4 years that we fucking had, because he did all kinds of stuff.
Well, that was their problem. They said on the show that their problem was that they were seeing numbers that people were more fondly looking back on 2016. And,
What?
Or the first term. They were looking back fondly on that. And so they could not relitigate the past. They needed to make the future very scary. And Project 2025 was their shoehorn into doing that.
I mean, granted, hindsight 2020, I think they overplayed that card. Like
you think?
For me, there are things that Trump has said he's going to do that I like. It's not like 100% yes or 100% no. I do think the refusal to accept the 2020 election and everything that led up to January 6th just it permanently precludes him from holding office in my mind. Even if I agree with certain cabinet picks or certain policies he wants to do like that, nope, he is not fit to be president. That whole thing disqualifies him for me. Noting that so much effort went into he is a Russian asset. He is like apocalyptic level stuff that eventually I was like, oh, you don't believe this stuff you've been telling me. And I think a lot of people had, again, like I was already out. I wasn't going to vote for him based on the real stuff that happened in 2020. But yeah, for so many people, the apocalyptic plan was overplayed.
Well, and I think too, when you talk about these people looking at the polling, knowing as we now do that they were really focused on flipping Republicans over to the Democratic side, it makes me wonder who they were asking the questions to, because I don't know anyone who had Trump derangement syndrome that was like
That
really
liked him.
enthused.
Yeah.
That went back and went like, you know what, 2016, that actually was great. It's like if you were actually trying to get your own base to show up and you were polling them, there was no softening on that.
Here's the fucking problem.
They always go for these
This is-
middle people that don't exist.
But it's because it's built on this premise of we can't admit we did anything wrong. We're the Democrats, where the only thing that matters is what we say. And if we ever say that, whoops, kind of fucked up the border. You want to know one? Donald Trump wrong about a million different things. We done goofed on remain in Mexico. We're gonna remain in Mexico because we screwed up, or just have some acknowledgement that things aren't great.
Yeah.
Or say, hey, the economy is recovering. We are doing our best, but it's going to take a while. COVID really, hammered us on our supply chains. So We have an ailing economy that we are desperately trying to keep from a recession. Any positive movement is great. But otherwise, gird yourself because there might be, some bumps in the road. And then things go as well as they wound up going. You'd be like, wow, you want to know what? They were fighting on the brink. Instead, They were like, the economy's back. Inflation's transitory. Like none of this stuff is real. And then it's like, okay, so you just lie repeatedly, but then you can't come back and say, hey, you want to know what? Like, let's etch a sketch a little bit. Let's go back. This was a problem. And so when you can't change any of your core positions, when you can't admit that like there was a mistake made, we're going to recorrect course here, and you can't take any, credit for at least understanding, meeting voters where they are right now, then all you have are this fantasy idea that there were 10,000 Nikki Haley voters in Pennsylvania that were going to save the election for you. And boy, do they love Liz Cheney. They just need to see Liz Cheney's face on television every single day.
And meanwhile, their base didn't want to show up.
Yeah, well, yeah. No shit. Because there was literally nothing that like, and this drives me nuts about all the discourse around it now, where it's like, Kamala Harris didn't take a leftward turn. She ran as a centrist. And it's like, no, she did the worst possible thing. The party took a leftward turn during the Biden stuff, but not on any of the shit that actual leftists want. It was all on this kind of like identity politics stuff that was like surface level bumper sticker that in general Democrats like, but it's not really like points on the board, like stuff that they really, really get excited about. And then at the very end, they were like, oh, also Kamala Harris is a gun-toting centrist. It's like, really? Yep. We expect you to believe it and be excited by it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, so this ramshackle fucking jalopy hit a goddamn wall, and I'm glad it's on fire.
And I'm getting frustrated with the postmortems not mentioning Gaza. Like from the DNC, just like, I know what a big deal that was. And everyone's talking about all this political stuff. And that is somehow being like brushed aside now that it's like completely destroyed. I think that was a really, really big deal, especially when we're talking about a commander in chief. And so the fact that like the conversation keeps going back to these political calculations where really a lot of us were just looking for, give me one sign that you give a shit and that you'll do something to help the people of Gaza. Give me anything. And they refused to give us anything. That was a huge problem.
Anat Shankar-Osario, who's been on the PX3 show. So there was an interesting roundtable that the New York Times did with her, Tim Ryan, and Liz Smith about like the future of the Democratic Party. But when she was on PX3, we were talking about Gaza, and I forget if this was on the show or off. But she was like, hey, look, here's the problem with what's happening in Gaza. It's not that it's declining enthusiasm. It is that. But it's the people that you are having declining enthusiasm with in the states you need to win, like Michigan. They're your most regular Democratic volunteers.
Yeah.
They're the people that organize the get out the vote drives, that drive the buses, that bring people to the polls. They know the friends and family. They're on the big group text chains that do stuff. So it's like,
and those are the people that were crying outside the DNC.
And for all the brilliant people, all the really, really, really smart DNC geniuses that didn't prepare their candidate for, of course, the first fucking big event she had in Detroit, you're gonna have a Gaza protester. When you don't prepare her with a moment, when you don't prepare her with when you get heckled, like Biden was actually used to be good at this back in the day, just to say like, no, it's fine. Let him talk. And like do some element that shows humanity instead of her just saying like, shut up, I'm talking. Trump's going to win if you don't stop talking. Mm-hmm. It's like, what the fuck do you think's going to happen, man?
Well, and she was saying the same phrase that they had clearly workshopped from the DNC. Anytime she was asked about Gaza, she was saying the same sentence word for word.
Yes.
And it's like, we want to know what you actually think. Stop being such a fucking robot. So it was like, I was desperate. Give me something. Give me one sentence, anything that makes me think you're going to do something different. She never did.
Well, this is, so I have my postmortem on Kamala as a candidate that's going to be on PX3 on Friday. And I think I've finally settled on my metaphor that Heaton might not fully understand this, but you will. She is a system quarterback from Alabama. Like, she is brought up in a system. She is brought up. She's Mac Jones. She was brought up in a system that was there to highlight her strengths. It's the one party state of California. She then goes to compete in the big leagues. She can't do it. Like Mac Jones couldn't do it in the NFL. The difference is for her is that she has the option of metaphorically going back to Alabama. If Mac Jones could go back and be the quarterback at Alabama, he'd be fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And Kamala Harris can go back to California. She's going to be the governor. She'll be fine. And she might be able to do things in California that Gavin Newsom wasn't, because California might be the only state of the union that really buys that she's a centrist. Everybody else never fucking bought it.
Yeah. That's true. I like that analogy. That works.
Me too. Yeah, Mac Jones. Yeah. One of my friends, Christian Britschke, wrote an article that gave me pause after the election, where he said that he thought that Kamala Harris' prosecutorial background did not lend itself to particularly good campaigning. And what he meant by that was, as a prosecutor, what she could rely on was, I am going to make all these negative consequences happen unless you agree to do a plea deal. Like, not like look how bad Trump is, therefore I win. And that's very different than like, come vote for me. Because the amount of the amount of actually just kind of pro Kamala energy was very low. And then I think you guys are absolutely right about the robotic nature of it. Like, if you go back 20 years ago, we had a very, very different idea of what we wanted in politicians at that time. 20 years ago, we wanted polished, put together politicians, politicians that were coiffed and articulate, were seen as being the adults in the room and responsible.
You.
Yeah, and I'm out. I'm out, gang. It's a miracle I've not been shot. Now what the voters really want is grit. They we would prefer somebody who fucks up or says the wrong thing or says something offensive, but we're pretty sure they mean it.
Yeah.
Than have somebody be laminated and collated. And that's something Trump excelled at in that I don't know how much he means what he says, but he's very in the moment able to talk, as opposed to Kamala Harris, who really, she does well in debates. I thought she did well in the debate. She does really poorly just riffing. She's not good at riffing. And so,
because I don't think she believes in anything. I really don't. I think she believes in winning office and moving up the ladder. And that's really tough if you're being asked about policies and you're like, which one's going to poll better? Like,
yeah, but it's like, Bill Clinton was, to both his enemies and his supporters, a triangulating centrist. Like, Barack Obama, to his supporters and his enemies, was a technocrat. Donald Trump, to his friends and enemies, is a fuck it, rip up the deal, we'll renegotiate it right now kind of deal maker. That frustrates some, it delights others. What's Kamala?
Yeah, I don't know.
We don't fucking know. She's the law and order liberal, and then she's the super progressive standard bearer, and then she's like the wish list candidate for the progressive left in 2020, and then she's like, I'll fucking shoot you, dude. Like, I have a Glock.
To back up, Justin, you thought she'll be governor of California. Kevin Williamson wrote in, I think, National Review, maybe Dispatch. He wrote that before Biden had decided to step down from the campaign, he wrote an article saying Kamala Harris can be anything she wants as long as it's not president. And this is before Biden had decided not to run. And he was like, look, if Kamala Harris goes to him and is like, I am going to drop off the ticket unless you drop out. Yeah. That she could strong arm. She unilaterally had the ability to strong arm him into leaving and forcing a convention to occur. And if she did that and stepped back because she was unpopular in all polling at that time, everybody would go, that is the hero we needed to save the party. Would you like to be head of the University of California? Would you like to be governor of California? Like, at that point, it would have been, you were falling on your sword on behalf of the Democratic Party in order to stop Donald Trump. She didn't do that. She decided to run. She lost. If I were in California, I don't know that I would welcome her back with open arms. I don't think
she's that popular either.
I think she is. I think in the cities that she would need to be, which is San Francisco and LA. And also, I think she would have enough money behind her. She's anointed by the Getty family, which essentially runs politics in California. She would be the name. She'd be coming back. And she has a little bit of like, her and Gavin have a little bit of a frenemy kind of thing where she could like say like, no, you want to know what my calling is? To save my state. My state is ailing. And, you know, she's got the cash. No one else would run against her.
And are you saying this because you think it's Gavin 2028 for president?
Well, he's termed out in California.
But do you think
governor.
that's his next step? Is
Yeah, I think he's been running
Yes.
for president since
His whole
long
life.
before he was stooping Kimberly Guilfoyle. I think
Yes.
this is a 28-year.
No, I think it will be a disaster. like if I were to bet on first candidate out, like I might make a first candidate out bet for Gavin Newsom because he does fucking not connect. Like Kamala is a better national candidate than Gavin Newsom.
the person I'm keeping my eye on, because he just became Attorney General of North Carolina today, is Jeff Jackson, because he connects with people
He's the TikTok
so
man.
well. Yes, I love him. I think he's a good person. He's been doing these things where he sits at his kitchen table and just tells you what was happening in Congress.
Yeah.
And I just found them really
It's a
useful.
good-
He was very calm. He was
He's
very
a good communicator. And
He's a really good
you have to be a
communicator.
communicator.
And I love his family, and he's going to be doing prosecutorial type work so he can actually show mercy and being tough over the next few years. Like, he's the one that if I have hope in the Democratic Party, it's Jeff Jackson.
It's more Jeff Jackson's.
No, it's specifically Jeff Jackson.
Sure. Well, okay, that's it. There's one person.
Right now, yeah.
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 I
I can't think of anyone else that I'd be like excited about.
Jared Polis
He's
wouldn't
running.
hate Jay.
He's running.
Yeah.
for president.
Oh yeah.
See, like, again, the fact that I like him is a death knell. Like, I'm just like, don't put stock in that campaign. But I
Not
like him.
necessarily.
I would love it if Jared Polis ran for president. That's somebody, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Jared Polis,
Hate that.
Andy Bashir, AOC.
And now I owe fealty to Andy Bashir because he made me a
Newsom.
Kentucky colonel.
Yeah. Newsom. Who else? Ro Khanna.
Mayor Pete.
Oh God, Mayor Pete. Of course.
He's definitely running for president. You know, he has a summer home in Iowa.
Michigan resident.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Michigan
it's
resident.
Michigan.
Oh no,
my bad.
he out and out moved to Michigan.
Yeah, right. Yep,
Really?
Yep.
Oh yeah, just totally randomly.
Mhm.
Totally randomly.
That was, yeah. I enjoy the primaries. They're like before the parties have congealed around a candidate. When you can talk to Republicans about who they like and who they don't like, that's the fun. And same with Democrats. That's the fun time, because once the primaries are over, then everybody locks arm in arm and they're not okay with you poking. But prior to that, you can just like slap around jokes on everybody. It's really fun. And I first started really paying attention to the primaries in like 2016, maybe 2012. And Bobby Jindal, who was still a thing at that time, who I've not heard anything about.
I forgot about him.
And I thought he was going to be a big national player, and I was wrong about that because he's running a think tank now, I'm guessing.
I don't know.
I don't know, or maybe he's at Rand or something. But he was at the time governor of Louisiana, and I'm like, wow, okay, Republican, Indian, smart, worked at Rand. There's like really, really good scorecard here. And he announced his run for presidency by doing like a voyeur video of explaining the run to his kids. Like he used like a security camera on their porch.
Yeah.
And pretended that this was just, we happen to have this footage.
Yeah.
And the bit that I loved was where they're explaining, like, you know, your dad's going to be running for president because he loves America so much. It's going to take a lot of time. It's going to be tough on the family, but we think we really owe it to the country. And then Mrs. Jindal goes, but this also means we'll get to go back to Iowa. And they all go, oh boy. And I'm like, oh my God.
Wow.
Now I had a good time at Iowa, Justin, and listeners in Iowa. I enjoyed your state. As lovely as Iowa is, I just
No kid
can't
is getting
see a
excited
kid going
about
like,
Iowa.
yay, Des Moines.
Yeah. But we have plenty of time to figure out who the participants of. It's going to be a dual primary because I don't think JD is going to chase everybody out of the Republican field.
No. If they were willing to take a strike at Trump this last time, they'll take a strike at JD. Yeah.
I'm just excited that we have a little time off of all of it.
No.
Yeah, you got like 6 months before that. I mean, like, none of the people running, by the way, have taken any time off. I guarantee you, like right now, Pete Buttigieg
Democrats got to go back to Iowa. They
What?
got to go back to Iowa because it's just a good state.
When did they leave?
The last cycle. They didn't do Iowa first.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah. They
were
did
in Iowa.
fucking South Carolina first, which is like.
That was all set up for Joe Biden.
Exactly. It was
Crazy.
just because, yeah, it's like, look, there's going to be a lot of money that goes into that Democratic primary coming up for 28. And if you don't just want Jim Clyburn to have 8 new pools, then you just need to move the first state somewhere else, because the South Carolina primary is just who's Jim Clyburn's best friend.
Ugh. I'm so tired of getting the opinions of 70 and 80-year-olds.
You think you got enough of them?
There's so many of them. We haven't even talked about Kay Granger.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
She's just
Republican.
in a nursing home for 6
congresswoman.
months.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
In a dementia home.
Not just a congresswoman, the chairman of the Appropriations
Yeah.
Committee. Like,
Is that an
she's
important
not.
one?
It's only the most important one. Yeah. She just wasn't all there.
Which meant
forgive me.
her like 25 to 15-year-old staffers were just running the
I
Appropriations Committee.
read about this a little bit. Can you remind me of this? Has she stepped down, or is she just
Yes.
not running?
No.
So she left the Appropriations Committee earlier in the spring, like entirely too late after the budget was supposed to be done. But like she stepped down very quietly.
As long as we passed a budget, Jen.
We didn't.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah. So it's like when you see the fact that the government hasn't been funded, this might be a fucking part of it. But she passed it over to Tom Cole very quietly. I wasn't even aware of it. And then she
Wait, is Tom
stopped.
Cole the head of appropriations now?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then she stopped voting in mid-July. And there were reporters that were trying to find her, but the staff was being very quiet. And so, for about 6 months, no one could find her. And then a couple weeks ago, they realized that she was in this convalescent home with dementia. So it wasn't like she had physically hurt herself and like needed physical help. Like her brain.
Wait. So she removed herself from the committee, but she stayed a member of Congress?
She's still a member of Congress. She still won't resign.
Until
the new Congress starts on Friday,
yeah.
but like she's going to do this entire term, even though about 3 weeks ago we found out that she had.
Wait,
dementia.
no. She didn't run again this
No,
cycle.
she didn't run again.
Yeah.
But like once you're in the convalescent home, fucking resign.
Oh, yes.
You know, like she should have resigned. The minute she resigned from the Appropriations Committee,
She
that
should have
was the
resigned from
moment.
Congress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead, her staff was just doing whatever they were doing, running an empty desk. It's a big scandal.
It is a scandal.
Yeah. And then
All
there's
that being
another
said, it was
one.
probably a really fun office.
Who's the
In my experience, when a member just kind of like takes the fuck off and leaves the staffers in charge, that place is a hoot. That is a really fun place to hang out.
Well, then there's another guy. He was running for a chairmanship of something, and he didn't get it because everyone in Washington apparently knows that he is also suffering from dementia. What the fuck is his name? He's I feel like we talked about him last week. Scott, maybe? But yeah, there's another one that like, it's this open secret in DC that no one wants to write about because it's ageist or like mean or whatever. But I think at some point we have to start talking about the gerontocracy and doing something about it. Like, I don't care if I'm called ageist. We can't have 80-year-olds with dementia running our country. And we have multiple of them now wandering around there, not knowing anything. Our president, for Christ's sake, like it's gone too far.
Is that an important job?
Some say.
Would you now just playing this out? Would you put in age limits, or is it just we are more aware of and talk about dementia more?
At this point, like I've always wanted to be that person's like, we don't need term limits or age limits because us voters are supposed to have the people that we want. But at this point, we've done such a terrible job with Congress that maybe we need some guardrails, whether it's term limits, because even if you're elected at 70, you're fucking out at 78. If we make the term limits for the presidency and Congress the same, maybe that's the solution. Maybe we have an age cap. We definitely have an age minimum. So why don't we have an age cap? And I think we're at the point now where this has become such a problem that the new generation hasn't been allowed to, like, we're talking about AI with people who don't understand their cell phones. Like, they shouldn't be the ones. Like, Justin should be in there talking about these issues, not these people that don't understand these issues. I'm also it annoys me that people are going to be governing my future who will not physically be here. Like, just by the laws of nature, if you are 80, 30 years from now, you're probably dead.
Oh, respect your elders.
No, this is ridiculous. The elders should respect us enough to allow us to determine our own future.
I don't think you're going to
Sounds like
really
a lot of sassy talk.
I don't know that you
lady.
can get around that because there's always going to be somebody younger than you. Like if you're running at 35, you're not going to be there for the kids that are just born. So, I'm less concerned about age cap. I like the idea of term limits. I think that's a good idea. There's lots of different ways to do it. But term limits to me would be a good idea.
I think there needs to be more gossip rags in DC that splash really nasty
Well, what happened
secrets
to
and gossip.
TMZ DC was supposed to be a thing. Like, what happened to that?
Probably because it's hard to put your name on it. But if it was a decentralized thing that you could just throw fucking wild shit out there and start naming names on stuff.
Or
like,
you use we talked about this with the judiciary 2 years ago. It used to be, we say the 10th Circuit, the 9th Circuit Court, because we used to make judges ride circuit. They hated it. Supreme Court justices all like functioned as a part-time national office and a part-time appellate court. So the Supreme Court members would go on the appellate court. They'd literally ride circuit around the country. If you're a member of Congress and you didn't come in a wheelchair, I'll make an exception there, you got to ride a horse. If you can't ride the horse, you can't be in Congress.
Yep. And if you're in a wheelchair, you got to ride a chariot.
Yep. You got to ride a chariot.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not wrongpod@gmail.com. Should old acquaintance be forgot? We're not wrongpod@gmail.com is where you have to email the show. The gift of the Madgerbs writes, Jury's Christmas gift to Jen and Andrew was to not antagonize them for an episode.
Thanks, Justin.
In reference to last week's episode where I did not antagonize you guys because we did our buffet, which
that's right.
Which, by the way, succeeded in my only goal, which was for people not to complain that we didn't do a show. And the only complaint we got was that you, Heaton, put your longest episode as part of our buffet, which meant that it was like a half gig and somebody complained that it auto downloaded onto his phone.
I apologize for nothing.
And I was like, you want to know what? That was my only gift my only goal was that I give everybody so much content.
Yeah.
That they don't complain that it wasn't new.
I'll just say, Tom Merritt, get a better phone. What's wrong with you, Tom?
Christmas Story Sucks writes, A Christmas Story is the most overrated holiday film since It's a Wonderful Life. The only reason it's considered classic is because it's a passable, family-friendly comedy that preys on nostalgia and is played relentlessly throughout the month of December.
A double shot. It's a Wonderful Life too. This person needs therapy. You need joy in your life.
It's a Wonderful Life is
sorry for
actually
you.
just an awesome movie.
Yeah,
It's so good.
Yeah.
I do wonder, like, there are lots of, I've become increasingly cynical about films the last couple of years. I think both of you have been subjected to my 18-minute screed about Megalopolis. I'm not going to inflict it upon our listeners, but I think
I haven't.
Oh, have you not?
No, but I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't
Wow.
either.
Oh, I need to call Gene. Gene Epstein was going to screen it. I saw Gene Epstein, who I mentioned to you earlier today, Justin. I saw him when I was up in New York here a month or two ago, and he was like, "Hey, we're having a New Year's. You can come up. We're going to watch Megalopolis." And I was like, "What?" And my interpretation is this: anybody that's a reviewer, like the New York Times, or whatever, that says that Megalopolis is a great film, Francis Ford Coppola has incredible dirt on them. If you see somebody write Megalopolis is a good film, they're probably a child molester. It's a horrible film. Horrible film. Francis Ford Coppola should be in prison. It's so awful. I hope that his whole vineyard goes bankrupt.
Better or worse than Poor Things?
It was even worse than that. Poor Things was at least coherent. Poor Things was aiming at a thing that I didn't like, but it at least had a trajectory. Megalopolis, the main character can stop time, comes up in the first 30 seconds of the show. They forget about that element for 2.5 hours, just not a thing. It was like a giant, very expensive AI hallucination. And I think one of two things is going to happen. Either Francis Ford Coppola, I'm not being funny here, it would not surprise me if in the next 6 months it turns out he has Alzheimer's and that this entire thing was done by somebody with dementia.
God.
Oh my God.
I say this with no relish. I don't wish that on anybody, but it would not surprise me at all. The slightly more, the one that I'm rooting for, just because I don't ever want to root for anybody who have dementia, is he was out of his fucking mind high making that entire thing.
That's true.
Because
it is high all the time.
It is an absolute garbage heap of just, oh my God. One more bit on this. Have you ever been to a play at like a black box theater, like an off Broadway, where everybody's in a black leotard and they think they're really profound and they're not? The whole film is like that.
Yeah.
The whole film is people quoting Shakespeare for no reason because Shakespeare's a smart people thing. And he really wants you to, awful film. The reason that I bring this up is I am becoming increasingly cynical in my interpretation of film. And I wonder if older films I like because I was a kid when I watched them, or they were actually good films. And I don't know how to square that circle. Like, I don't know when I watch a really fun film, if that's just something I liked because I was 8, or whether I would like it now in my haggard 40s.
I mean, I definitely saw both of those movies, It's a Wonderful Life and Christmas Story, when I was young. but I still laugh when I watch A Christmas Story. Like I still get a kick out of it. So I feel like there's certain things, like I watched Home Alone. I still laugh. I still get a kick out of it. I think these movies just hold up. And I still like.
Home Alone is low key so stacked though. I realized this over the holidays that like the B plot of Home Alone is Catherine O'Hara and John Candy just playing off each other. Like two of like the greatest comedians of their era. And that's like the B plot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that they hold up, and I still get the feels at the end of It's a Wonderful Life. And I do think there's a nostalgia thing to it because it feels like Christmas to me when I hear Ralphie's voice. So there is a part of that. It's not Christmas until I hear it, but I think both of them, maybe it's both.
Maybe it's both, yeah. I like it.
Yeah, all right, whatever. A lot of people hated the other one.
Go watch Megalopolis. If you want to hate something,
the real Christmas film. Yes, it's new.
Oh, okay.
If you can call it a movie, yeah, it came out. At the tail end of last year. It feels like it's 9.5 hours. It might be 2. I don't know.
But Francis Ford Coppola sold his winery so he could self-finance that movie because nobody would pay to finance it
because it was so fucking awful. And apparently,
there's him off again.
There's no one in his life that loves him enough to tell him that he just ruined his entire legacy because he did.
Wow,
the man is a failure.
Well, actually, on Oversight writes, every committee has oversight authority. Many have oversight subcommittees of their own. For example, Ways and Means Oversight Subcommittee oversees the IRS operations. Energy and Commerce Oversight Subcommittee on pharmacy benefit managers. Natural Resources Oversight Subcommittee on CCP Panda conversation program with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, et cetera, et cetera. The Oversight Committee does have legislative jurisdiction. All post office related legislation, such as renaming post offices, which is little more than affirmative action from members of Congress to say that they got a bill signed into law, or the more important legislative work related to the USPS, stock disclosures, federal procurement policy, federal agency permitting processes, issue related to federal employees, jurisdiction over issues of the District of Columbia, presidential libraries, some elements of federal campaign, donor disclosure, directing to the OMB director to do things, et cetera, et cetera. So is a lot of the Oversight Committee a lot of show? Yes. But you can see other committees try to take some of the flash of oversight with their own subcommittees. It just seems to be the most flashy issues come through oversight, as it is the most political per se in dealing with intergovernment operations, including members of Congress themselves, the president of the cabinet, SCOTUS, etc. You've started to see some of that flood into previously overlooked committees like ethics or House administration that have gotten more attention.
Did that come from a staffer?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Thank you, staffer. I love staffers.
Yes.
They're the best.
That makes oversight sound a lot less important than I thought it was.
I mean, made it sound less important?
Yeah.
Like they do a lot of, well, that my whole point with oversight
So
is that they do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I think the post office is important.
Naming post offices?
Oh, well, that's just, I mean, that's what made me giggle. Is just, being able to say, I got a bill into law and it's a post office. There were so many post offices named at the end of the year.
Essential Elves writes, those of us in shipping and retail here hate that you guys say no one is working for the last few weeks of the year. It is our busy season. We are working extra hard so you can get your presents on Christmas morning. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We are dickheads of the laptop class.
I will
Our apologies.
I was working my fucking ass off of my Christmas special, so I'm right there with you, brother.
Yep. In
That's
solidarity.
the same.
Roughneck Andrew Heaton.
I wasn't taking any time off. I was waking up at 5 fucking editing for 4 hours and driving 9 hours the 3 days preceding Christmas. So yay.
Legit though, I watched these Amazon drivers so early in the morning, late at night. Like they worked so hard to get our stuff. Like we really
and I know that the email that wrote
appreciation.
in is he's a long haul trucker, and so it's like for real.
Yeah,
you guys make the dream work.
The people at the grocery stores that were working on Christmas Eve at 8 p.m. We have a lot of heroes.
All of you guys and Heaton for
Thank you.
editing the Christmas special.
Yeah,
just saying, I didn't slack off. That's all I'm saying.
Not all heroes wear capes.
3 Ghosts writes.
Sometimes when they wear vests.
Thank you, Jen.
3 Ghosts writes, Justin is the ghost of Christmas present, and he's in the moment, jolly and kind of gross. Jen is the ghost of Christmas past, reminding us of what we've lost and how far we've fallen. And Heaton's gaunt ass is the ghost of Christmas yet to come, pointing to the grave and creeping us all out with his salad fingers.
The fuck?
What's a salad finger?
I don't know, but I had to read it on the show.
Oh my God.
All right.
Can you look it up on Urban Dictionary? What's a salad finger? It's like
Also,
the one
I feel
thing-
like I'm generally pretty optimistic, aren't I?
I don't know. It didn't make any sense. It just starts out by calling me kind of gross. Like backhanded compliments Jen and then just fucking buries you. It's like, this is unhinged.
If I ever see you, I'm going to touch your face.
What is salad fingers? I will ask ChatGPT.
It's definitely thinking.
Yeah. Oh, so Salad Fingers is a web series. And the main character, Salad Fingers, is a thin, green-skinned humanoid with long, spindly fingers.
Yeah, all right.
See your
fair.
fingers.
I
I
have
mean-
pretty normal hands, really. I mean,
Actually, they're
I'm
kind of small.
I'm gaunt. I'll give you that, but I don't think my hands are particularly weird.
No, they're
And
normal.
finally, the J Slur writes, in the spirit of Christmas to lie to children, I convinced my niece that Jingle Horse is a slur against reindeer. And she's now made at least one social media post trying to cancel Jingle Bell Rock.
Nice.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Okay.
What's
Our
up, my
audience is
Jingle Horse?
twisted.
All right. Do we have anything to plug? Well, you can plug your Christmas special.
Yeah, I mean, I have an episode out this week for January 1st. Turner Sparks, who I mentioned earlier today, he came on with a friend of his. They do a show called Black and White Advice, where they're two comedians are kind of trying to work through tense race issues by cracking jokes. So I have them on just discussing hey, you're black. Do you guys celebrate Kwanzaa? Is that real? Like I was basically given emotional latitude to ask questions that I'm like,
Is it?
huh?
Kwanzaa.
Oh, he gave me he's like, well, my uncle celebrates it, but nobody else. And I'm like, all right, because I kind of thought it was fake. But if your uncle celebrates it, but it's not
Yeah.
a lot of people. But it was several things like that. That being said, though, I am particularly proud of my Christmas special. I realize it's no longer Christmas season. It's very funny. Justin played a very large role in it, both in the brainstorming process, the editorial process, and played at least 2 characters in it. And so yeah, check out the Christmas special because that's my annual comedic magnum opus.
It's very funny. Very, very funny. Jen?
So I'm producing an episode, like once I'm done here, I'm basically going into my work hole until it's done. But the end of the 118th Congress, I wasn't expecting to be as chaotic as it was.
Yeah.
Some crazy shit went down. And so I'm going to kind of retell that story, let you know what was taken out of the CR that didn't become law, and then talk about the one that did. And then just kind of wrap up some things in the 118th Congress. It was even reporters that have been there for like 40 years are saying it was the most dysfunctional one they've ever seen. And there's some oddities that I looked into.
My sources were telling me that as things got super weird at the end, that it was like feeling like the McCarthy, like who's driving this bus kind of
interesting.
chaos.
Yeah, it was strange.
And then it wound up all wrapping up like far neater than anybody I think kind of expected. Like leading
because
up,
they wanted to go home.
yeah, leading up to it, they were gonna like do 4 separate bills, and they were gonna vote for the 4 separate bills, and then there was like another term for it, and then all of a sudden the Democrats were like, fuck it, we'll vote for it. It's just like, oh, for real? Like, so all this could have
Yeah.
been fucking avoided if you just would have voted for a clean CR like 3 weeks ago.
Well, in the long CR, I don't know if I had said it on the show. I was irritated by it. It was 1,547 pages, came
Yeah.
out of nowhere. But once I actually had the text and I was looking through it, there was a lot of stuff that Democrats got in there that I was hoping would become law by the end of the year. Now, obviously, I wished it was in separate bills and in proper
Yeah.
process and all that shit. But there were some things that we need. And a lot of those were taken out. And I think it's worth examining what was taken out, because when you look at what the Democrats did, they had made a deal and then the deal was broken. And as you said, they just went, fuck it. Let's just go home.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's their last bit of leverage. They have no power in the 119th Congress.
Nope.
So it's just another example of the Democrats just not governing. Like the Republicans don't really govern, but neither do the Democrats. Like
I take this
unfortunate.
as further evidence that public choice theory is all in bold and caps at all times. The idea that people are human even when they hold office, and they are still self-interested and prone to wanting to go home for Christmas and all of those things. People do not abjure their self-interest upon acquiring office.
Yeah, but they're supposed to be serving the public. It's supposed to
sure,
be one of
I
the
agree.
most
I was
important
supposed to,
positions
yeah.
you can possibly get. And I mean, the stuff that was taken out, it's going to actually affect all of our pocketbooks. It affects our lives.
Yeah.
It's,
I don't disagree on any of that. I'm just saying, like, yeah, they're still people. They're still self-interested.
On PX3 Friday, we have our big end of the year episode with Kevin Ryan. It's a really good conversation. And then we finally did the last bit of business we had for the 2024 election, my campaign undertaker for Kamala Harris. And we resolve whatever happened to the other piñatas on election night.
Justin, I insist you make me a part of that conversation.
Oh, also Heaton's on to decide whether or not I got my prediction right.
Yeah.
Because there was controversy. Because I had 4 different ways that the election could go.
Yeah.
2 that were positive for the Democrats, 2 that were positive for the Republicans. So obviously I was on the right side of the ledger in terms of like I predicted the Republicans were going to have a good night, but there was like the kind of a good night, and then there was the best possible night. And so I had Heaton adjudicate whether or not it was a kind of a good night or the best possible night. And that means whether or not I was right or wrong.
that's always fun.
Good times. Till next time, this is your old pal, Justin Robert Young, saying for Jen, Bryony, and Andrew Heaton, we're not wrong. 2024 is.